Hi guys, and welcome to the second episode of the Low Code series. Now today's episode is all around creating a scalable web app from a spreadsheet using a low code environment such as Knowledge Cube. Now, today we're back with Kieran again, but before I start, I just want to very briefly explain just a little bit about what today is actually about. Now, just as an FYI, if anybody missed the first episode, go and check that out in the link below now. We'll also send it to you after. But we were showing some pretty cool stuff around integrating third-party systems with teams using, again, our low-code platform, Knowledge Cube. Now, that's a really relevant subject right now, and we've got some really, really good feedback from that. So I definitely suggest everyone goes and checks that out. Now today, so what's today about? Now, what we wanted to do is make a video to show everyone how simple it is to get started using Knowledge Cube. Now, there's really a whole bunch of ways to get started using Knowledge Cube, but what we thought would be a really cool way, or what would make a really cool video, is to actually show everyone how to get started from a spreadsheet. Now, there's a number of reasons we've actually decided to do this video today, and I'm just going to hand over to Kieran now. Now, Kieran can explain the reasons we've actually decided to do a video and why we've decided to get started from a spreadsheet.
Okay, thanks, Harry. Yeah, so the reason we've chosen to do our session today based on a spreadsheet is because spreadsheets have become a part of everyday life in many organizations, whether it being for data capture, whether it's being for invoicing, for expenses. There's a huge variety of applications that have been built using this technology, but it's become quite a common task that we find when we go visit customers, is about actually how do we take this spreadsheet maybe of data and be able to put that in the cloud, expose it, and be able to generate documentation, be able to allow other people to interact with it, and be able to control versions of that data. So I thought it was quite a relevant subject to be able to show that today.
Okay, thanks, Kieran. Now, this doesn't have to be, so I know we said we get started from a spreadsheet, but what does that really mean? So does it have to be a brand new spreadsheet or spreadsheet someone just created, or is this a spreadsheet that someone already has?
No, 9 times out of 10, these are spreadsheets that users already have in their business and are running to date. Whether it being asset tracking, whether it being employee information, whether it being asset different elements. There's a whole variety of use cases, but an example to today that I want to bring up is around we've got a 10,000 record spreadsheet around customer information, and it's being able to take that information and upload it into Knowledge Cube very, very simply.
Okay, so this is the spreadsheet. Okay.
So this is the spreadsheet here. So you can see we've got 10,000 records. So there's a large amount of data here, and you can see sort of standard fields around name, email address, address details, going over to sort of some order spend history, and including some bit of personal information about the individual. So a bit of CRM data, and it's being able to take that and then upload it simply into Knowledge Cube.
Okay. So now that's I know you said there's a lot of data there. There's 10,000 rows, but some of these spreadsheets have hundreds of thousands. They're big, and lots and lots of worksheets that go with it. Now, is there any sort of limitation to the actual spreadsheet that you can use?
No restriction. There's just one important rule, is that you have to have a row at the top of your spreadsheet with your column headings, but there's no limitation to the number of rows of data that you import. You can bring in multiple sheets. You just have to bear in mind that obviously the more data you have, just a little bit longer it's going to take to import it into your process. But you can even upload a spreadsheet that just has the heading row, and it will create an application with no data for you with no trouble at all.
Okay, brilliant. So can we actually see you doing this? Can we actually see
yeah, sure, of course, no problem. So let me go into Knowledge Cube. Okay, so this is our platform. Okay, so when you purchase a license of Knowledge Cube, you are provisioned with a repository. the simplest way to refer to a repository, and I do a lot of comparisons between Knowledge Cube and Excel. In terms of a repository is like a workbook. It's a container for your application, so one or more applications that you want to build. An application could be a full global enterprise application, or it could be a sub-process. So in the same way with Excel, you have multiple sheets that can communicate to each other, and they can run logic and business flows and so forth, so on. But it could also just be a microservice. Quite a common theme, being able to just take some information in, do some calculations on it, and then pass out a result. So there's a number of ways of how you can slice, dice, and how you can build out your applications and your solutions.
Okay, thanks, Kieran. So just while we're on this subject, so what type of user would you expect to use Knowledge Cube?
Okay, it's really important that so Knowledge Cube has been built specifically to allow any type of user. We have a lot of users that are your business analysts, project managers that understand business problems and their domain, and are then able to use Knowledge Cube to start building out these processes. But it's also to actually help empower developers, being able to expedite processes that just that can become a little bit tedious over time, and what we'll show in a minute is about how simple it is just to create a basic application that allows you to create, edit, update, and delete records without having to do anything. It just gives you the foundations to start working. And not only that, being able to then publish that data as a RESTful API, again, without having to build any code. It does all the documentation for you. Just from a productivity standpoint, Knowledge Cube has got lots of strengths in that area.
Okay, brilliant. So just to recap on that one then, it's a productivity tool. It's a low-code productivity tool that's pretty much built for any user. That's anyone from a citizen developer, someone that just wants to get into this space, or to professional developers.
Exactly. There's a whole wealth of it's feature rich, so it just allows you just to get started, start to build out your processes, whether it being business processes, whether it being standard operating procedures within your organization. It's endless.
Brilliant. So can we actually see something then? So can we actually see the document being uploaded?
Yeah, sure, no problem. So on the top here, we've got a tab called Getting Started. You'll notice that we're now presented with 3 options. So not only can we get started from a spreadsheet, but we have the ability to create from a template. So a typical thing, maybe like a registration process, an expenses application, or the ability, which is coming very, very soon. It's currently now in test, is the ability to create an app directly from your drawing. So you can draw out and say, this is going to be a text field, this is going to be an image. And Knowledge Cube will understand this. You'll be able to import it in, and it will create a basic application, and then you can start to adjust it and fine tune as you want. So what we're going to do today is take that spreadsheet. So if we get started, so let's go. We have the ability to either create a brand new application, or even put that spreadsheet into an existing application. So it's really important that you don't have to have these spreadsheets on day one to get started. You can bring them into other applications at a later date once you've got something else built. So we start with a new model, and we're going to give it a model name. So this is another similarity. In the same way that you can name sheets within a workbook, Knowledge Cube's no different in terms of being able to specify name references. So we give our application a name, and then you can refer to it throughout. And in the same way with cell references, everything you see today is going to all be around keywords. So there's a real similarity between the two tools. So it really fits well with the people that have got experience using Excel.
Okay.
So if I go and say live series demo, we're going to create. Okay, so what you'll notice here is we're given 2 choices for data sources. So with Knowledge Cube, we've got 150 out of the box data connectors. So things like Salesforce Dynamics. So if you want to create an app directly from one of those connectors, you can. So it's not just limited to Excel. So you've got ultimate flexibility. Sorry.
So yeah, just on that point then. So if you've got a Salesforce, you're using Salesforce in your organization, which a lot of organizations do, or Dynamics or another CRM system, any kind of system. You can link into, let's take Salesforce for example, and create your app from whatever's existing in Salesforce already.
Exactly it. So you're not just stuck to having to work with Excel. There's
Yeah.
no point extracting all that data to put into Excel to then put into Knowledge Cube. Connect directly to it. Keep it really, really simple, and Knowledge Cube then does all the heavy lifting for you.
Yeah.
So if we select Excel now, I touched on it earlier, the fact that Knowledge Cube can understand multiple sheets within our workbook. So we can go and browse for our file.
Yep.
We can select a worksheet. So if there are multiple tabs within there, multiple sheets, you can select multiple, and it will create the application around the sheets that you select. So in here, we've got one, which is our customer table, because essentially our customer sheet.
Before you press create there, sorry, Kieran. So what are, I know we touched on it earlier, but there's limitations, say. So what kind of limitations are we looking at as far as worksheets? Because when these organizations build these spreadsheets, and they're old spreadsheets, right? They start off with one worksheet, they grow huge. That's the way it happens. Now, what are the limitations around that, if any?
Okay, so your major limitation is you've got to have a heading row. So that's the number one rule that you have to have on your worksheet. Okay, and then it's just importing that data in, and it will then create those standard functions that you would expect from an application, being able to create records, edit, or delete. Okay.
And as many worksheets as you like.
Exactly, yeah. So we've had examples of 20, 30. We've even had an example where we've got over 100 tabs where we've uploaded it and created an application. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is create the application. So at this point, Knowledge Cube is now analyzing the data. So it's identifying the different data types within the columns, so like date, currency, and so forth. Yeah. It's replacing that spreadsheet and putting the data into an Azure SQL database so that we no longer have to rely on that spreadsheet. It's then creating the application, and what we are produced with is a set of forms that show you the ability to view. So we have customer records, we have the ability to edit, create, and view, and then we even have a confirmation form just to confirm that you do actually want to delete this record.
Mm-hmm. So it automatically creates you the CRUD functions as well.
Exactly, yeah. So really, really simple. So in the space of that couple of minutes, you've now got a working application. Yeah. So not only that, is that you're actually going to want to be able to preview, see what that looks like before you publish it. So with Knowledge Cube, you have the ability to run your application. So we can preview, and this essentially sets up an insight that you can then look to create, join. So I'm just going to set up a new insight here, and we're going to make it available for a period of time.
And sorry to cut across again. Now, an insight. We've used the word insights.
Yeah.
What is that?
Okay, so an insight is essentially it's going to be your test area of where you can run your application. It's a runtime within your actual your subscription that allows you to test against your infrastructure, so you can get a real gauge of how your application is going to perform when you publish it.
Okay, so using Knowledge Cube, then you don't actually need to have multiple environments. You don't need to have a UAT environment, test environment, so on and so forth.
Exactly, and
environment.
Exactly, and Knowledge Cube takes care of everything from you, and you'll notice when you start to create applications, you can then go and specify the start and end date. You have the ability to copy a model in its entirety, and everything is based on that start and end date. So Knowledge Cube takes care of that deployment for you.
And all of this is out of the box.
This is all out of the box. So you can see here, this is our application. Our data has been imported. We have a little light bulb on the bottom left-hand corner that allows us to track. We can run expressions directly on the site, but we have a console which opens up in a separate tab, and this allows you to track all events that take place. So if I go to the preview and we view a record, okay, so we can see we've been taken to another page. On our insight, we can now see all of our keyword values, so we actually understand what's been stored at what time. So if there's any anomalies, here's a first port of call. But not only that, you can see the series of events that have taken place at any stage of the process. So you can see it's assigning variables, keywords at the time.
So at the end then, so when I know we're showing this at the moment, but let's just say after you've actually built on top of this, you come into the insights here, Let's say you've got a connection into a third-party system, and it would tell you the time that's taken. This is where you just see everything that's happening in the back office.
Yeah, exactly. So if you get anything, you get any experience, things as you get a report that something's taking a long time to run, it gives you the telemetry to go and see. You can see here, this query took 0.15 of a second. It allows you to go and report back and make informed decisions based on what's going on within your actual application.
Okay, great. So let's have a look at the actual. Just go back a page then. So we'll have a look at the actual data here. So you've clicked in here. So it's created you the CRUD functions. One of the functions is that you actually go into the row of data, which is here. So this is now looking at just for the benefit of everyone. This is not looking at the spreadsheet that you originally uploaded.
Correct.
What most people have done is you've uploaded the spreadsheet. It's gone away. It's built you a new database as your SQL database up in the cloud, obviously, and that is now the new database that you're looking at. However, all the data is identical.
Exactly, yeah. So the spreadsheet is no longer required, and you've now got a working application. And everything you see can be controlled based on role, based on status. You can have an unlimited number of roles, so you can then control what data an individual can see at any given time.
Okay, that was actually going to be one of my questions later around roles and permissions. Let's just touch on that just a little bit more. So as far as roles and permissions, this is a pretty big topic for everyone. So at what level, what granularity can you add roles and permissions?
You can add permissions all the way down to individual records, individual values. So you could go down to a customer record and then go and say, actually, I don't want these specific columns to show. Or you can even set it on a specific rule. If this value of this individual is of this, don't show this. And you have ultimate flexibility in the technology.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, so we've got our technology. Sorry, we've got our spreadsheet up in the cloud now. Yeah. Okay. So what can we actually do with it now? So we're looking at it. It's all up in the cloud. Okay, we've got this base structure to actually do something with it now. What do we actually do with it?
Okay, so common problem common scenario that once we've got data into an application, people want to be able to get that data back out, whether it being reporting, whether it being generated, being sent as an email, as a notification, whether it's generating a PDF document for reference, or even being able to allow third-party developers to interact with that data.
Okay, so sorry, just let me cut across here. So
sure.
I can see we've actually got a few questions coming in here, guys. Now I'll answer all questions at the end. Don't wait to the end to ask these questions. Just put them in, and we'll pick at the end from some questions. Sorry, Kieran. So, okay, can we actually see an export of data or see it doing something then?
Okay, so I've got two examples. One of them actually to show you how we're going to be able to generate a PDF. Okay, and the other example is actually how we can allow third-party developers to come and interact with the data and our application that we've just produced. So if I come out of Knowledge Cube and we start with being able to generate a PDF. So it actually starts with Microsoft Word. So all document templates that you want to be exported from Knowledge Cube are built using Microsoft Word. Reason for that is lots and lots of businesses around the world have heavily invested in this technology. And not only that, 9 times out of 10, they've already got these templates pretty much built already. And it's all about just adapting them so that they can then interact with Knowledge Cube. So what you'll see here is that we have a standard sort of heading, sort of logo on there. We have a title. We have a couple of images of two very good-looking fellows on there, and then we have a grid. Okay, so we've got, so you can see here, we've got some standard rows of customer, email address, the same information that was actually in that spreadsheet.
Mm-hmm.
So once we're happy with our template, it's simply uploading it into Knowledge Cube. Knowledge Cube will then identify, you can see our keywords here, and you'll notice that they are surrounded by tildes, 2 tildes on either side, or squiggly lines, as some people like to refer to them. But it's the whole concept of being able, the Knowledge Cube understands that that is a keyword, and when it renders the document, it will then push any of those keywords directly into the template. and generate
Okay.
as a PDF.
So to put that into more layman terms, then, so we use Microsoft Word, which is the global standard, really, in documents. Anyone can build these documents as long as the keyword is contained within that document, within the tildes or the squiggly lines. Once you upload that then into Knowledge Cube, when you come to export that document, as long as the keywords match up with data that you want to put into that table, it just works.
Exactly. Okay. So what we'll do is we'll actually show that. So if I go back to Knowledge Cube now, and we have our application here, we can go to the Documents tab at the top. We can manage our documents. We can then go and add a new document. So we're going to add a Word document. So if you have a static PDF that you want to be able to generate, you can upload PDFs as well. So we'll go and select that. We'll then go and browse for our document. So you can see here our pre-configured Word. We can open, and Knowledge Cube automatically assigns a keyword to it. Okay, so everything's keyword based. So I'm just going to copy that for later. We're going to click next, and this is now creating the document against our model. We can click save, and we'd sort of touched on earlier, once the model's been created, it's not going to be just limited just so that you can work on it. Knowledge Cube allows for multiple developers to work in the environment, so you can actually have multiple users working on the app at the same time for productivity. So let's click View Customer. We're going to go and add an export button against a specific customer record. So if we check this out, so from an audit perspective, we have an understanding of what's been updated, but not only that, it then ensures that if two people are working at the same time, we're not going to go and overwrite each other's changes. Okay, so I'm going to open up the tree view. I'm going to add a new button. Okay, so a new question can go into it. I'm going to set the question type of being a button. I'm going to put the text, so export, and I'm going to give it a keyword of export button. I'm going to save it, and then I'm going to open up the expression engine. Okay, so this is where you can control your business logic, your decision making. Okay, and you can then start to build expressions that you would write in Excel in the same way in this expression editor. So you could go and say, if the condition is X, then show this document. Otherwise, don't show the document. The choice is yours. You have complete flexibility by entering control.
Sorry, I was just gonna ask how sort of powerful is this expression editor? So I know you said it works the same way as Excel does with spreadsheets, but how complicated can these things get? Just how much can you get in there?
You can make your application as complicated as you want. Okay, so we try to keep everything as simple as possible. But if you wanted to write 1,000 lines worth of expressions in here, again, there's no limit to that. We'd chop it up and put it into specific sections and putting it into actions. But if you want to make your application really, really complicated, you can. It's not limiting you in that fashion.
Okay, so there are best practices around this, but there's really no limitation on how complicated things can get.
Exactly. So what I'm just going to do is I'm going to open up the IntelliSense inside the expression engine. Okay, and this essentially brings up all of the functions that are available. So you can see on the pink there, we've got different attributes that we can use. So if I go and say show document, you can see here I can open up a bracket, and it then says specify the document keyword. So I'm just going to put our keyword that we just created. Close it.
Now, you just picked that show document from what looked like a function library, so you don't actually have to remember show document.
No, exactly. So you can then go back to it, refer to it, and it even tells you all the different available functions. So you can have show document, you could add watermarks. There's a number of varieties that you can actually follow with this.
And all of this is based around productivity. It's getting from start to finish as fast as possible.
Exactly. So if we click save, okay, right, what we're now going to do is go back to our application. So I'm going to open this up and click here. This is going to load up. Okay, so our same application we showed a minute ago. I'm going to go into a different record this time. So Aaron Dodd, we'll click view.
And now you have an export button.
Okay, we have an export button at the bottom here. And when we click this, you can see we're now generated a document. Very, very quickly, we've now got that document that we produced in Microsoft Word exported with the information around that individual.
Okay, so we can export the document. Okay, so earlier you said there was two different things that you wanted to show. What was the second?
Okay, so the second was taking that data source that we've created in our model and being able to show that as an API. So you can see here we've got a table called customer. We have a feature called cloud data publishing that allows us to create one or more configurations, which could be a subset of our data sources, and you can create as many as you want. And we will just create a new configuration here. So
cloud data publishing, what does that really mean?
So it is essentially, it's a container to allow you to publish one or more data sources or actions as RESTful APIs, so that third parties can then come in and consume them. So live series.
So this is API management here.
Yep. So it's going to publish one or more data sources up into Azure. So you can see here typical protocols you expect: get, put, and post. You can either apply this to all of your data sources, or you can actually apply it at an individual by individual data source. So if we go and say get, put, and post, we can then go and create. And as I said, this now provisions that data source into Azure. Okay, so you can see it's pending. If we refresh, it can take a couple of minutes. There we go. So it's as quick as that. So this is now provisioned. Once provisioned, we're then presented with a few more options where we can then set permissions, so access control. So not only can you have roles, you can then set up third-party access levels. You can have one or more subscription keys, and you can control that by client, by individual if required. If we select the default that's been set up for us, we can then select which developers have access. So I can then go and give myself permissions. When I click save, behind the scenes, I'm then invited to our API portal. Okay, again, all hosted in Azure, so security is taken control of. And if you're not registered already on there, you can go and register, and then then the system links the two, if your registration to the repository. If I go to my site now, so I've already got it open, and if I just enter this now.
So just to clarify on that one, then, this is it's a locked website, but it's on the web. So you pretty much give someone access to this website. They either go and register, it comes through, they get an email, and then they will have access to the API.
Yep, so you can now see our configuration here. So I've got a couple of configurations that have been set up. So I've got two different models that have got settings set against them. I can then go and look at the documentation that's been created. So not only has Knowledge Cube produced the API, it's also documented it. So a lot of developers, they get very much wrapped up in what they've got to do, but don't get time to actually document it. With Knowledge Cube, it creates the OData standard documentation for you, so you don't have to worry about it. So if I go and open this up now, and it'll open up in another tab, you can see the three protocols that we've created. So get, put, and post. We can expand them. You can see the examples of what's being required. But not only that, you can actually try these APIs out on the portal. So you can see here our get call. If we select try it out, you can see the OData syntax that's available, so you can even filter. So we're going to return the top 10 results. And if we click execute, so in real time, you can see our data is now being retrieved. So not only have we brought the data in from Excel into as a cloud application, we've now surfaced this for third parties to come and consume.
Okay, so just to recap on kind of what's happened here over the past 30 minutes. So we've taken a spreadsheet that can kind of be any spreadsheet. We've uploaded it into Knowledge Cube. Knowledge Cube has gone away and actually built us a cloud-first web application, scalable web application. We can then surface that data out to the wider world, whether that's just on a web page, we can expose it through APIs, we can export that information. Now, okay, so what about if you were to export this information through an API into a third-party system? What kind of happens with data that you don't want people to see? Because if you're uploading a spreadsheet that has 200,000-300,000 rows of data, there could be names, addresses, credit card numbers. People do crazy things. What happens then?
Okay, so with Knowledge Cube, we have to, we have. Let me actually go into the data designer and show you this. So if I go back to Knowledge Cube, so I touched on earlier the fact that we have essentially we've created a table. So going into the data designer, okay, we can go into our definitions and you can see all of the tables that are available. So if I just do a quick search for customer, we can see our table that's available. We can even browse the data. So we can filter that and we can show all the data that's been pulled in from our spreadsheet. So as you touched on, there could be sensitive information here. So within the data designer, we have a feature called compliance analysis, and this sits over all of our data tables within the data designer, but also if you have any externally supported providers there, it will also analyze those. So quite quickly, you can see it's analyzed all the tables. It's analyzed that we've potentially got credit card, financial information, and potentially sensitive data. So it allows you to make informed decisions based on that data type. You can go through and say, actually, I want this field to be masked, so that it's not going to be rendered. You could go and say, actually, we want to only show the last four digits because it's potentially a card number, and so on. The choice is yours, but it allows you to make informed decisions, because I'll show you an example. We've got an example here where we've got discovery address ID. It's been identified as credit card and confidential. But actually, that's just an ID column, and it's just a naming convention. But because it's got the word discovery, and that's a well-known credit card provider, it's potentially done the link. But you can make an informed decision and say, actually, that doesn't need to be masked. We don't need to worry about that. But it just is a tool for you to be able to go through and say, yeah, I want to mask this. I don't want to mask that bit of data. So you have ultimate control again over what's going on with your data.
Okay, so that in itself, if you were to just take a spreadsheet with hundreds of thousands of rows of data and just wanted to run some analysis over the top of it, that in itself is an application that you could use.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. And it just, the platform takes care of the things to allow you to focus on the actual business problem at hand, so you don't have to worry about those elements.
Okay, thanks, Kieran. Look, thanks for everything today. I just want to just ask one more thing, and then I can get onto the questions. So we touched on roles and permissions, but we didn't really touch on security
Sure.
So what does that sort of look like?
Okay, so with Knowledge Cube, we actually use Azure Front Door. We use their API management, and it sits on their service fabric. So again, security is handled at the platform. So as an individual having to build applications, I don't really have to worry about that. I obviously have to worry about it at the actual granular level of my application, but the overall security of the overall infrastructure is taken care of by the platform, so the individual can just focus on that business problem.
Okay, so what we're saying then is just don't necessarily worry about infrastructure, don't necessarily worry about security. The platform handles everything for you.
Exactly.
Okay, look, thanks, Kieran. So shall we have a few questions here. So let's pick Roman. So a limit on how many rows can be imported. I believe we actually answered that one. However, we'll go again. So I've said quite a lot throughout this video, hundreds of thousands of rows. Is there a limit?
Not that I've not hit a limit.
Okay, so I think we've answered that one. Okay, so Mike Croft, what about financial sheets with complex formulas? So Kieran.
The short answer to that is yes, we can handle that, and I think it's really important to mention that Knowledge Cube also handles sort of those complex statistical functions out of the box. So again, if you've got those already pre-built, Knowledge Cube can handle that.
Okay, thanks, Kieran. So we'll do a couple more. Ranjit, can I use my Excel spreadsheets as a single source of data and then consume within a model?
Yes, you can, and you can also export that data back out to the spreadsheet if required. This is just one use case that we've shown today, but you can do that if you really want to.
Okay, and last question then, Roman again. Can I then later export my data from cloud back to Excel with the same structure?
Sort of the same answer as before. The answer to that is yes, but not only that, because Excel has the ability to consume APIs, you can actually publish your actual data source that you've consumed and allow Excel to then interact with that data and then start to create other applications in Excel if required. We've got a couple of examples of that. It's really good use cases.
Okay, look, thanks, Kieran. Thanks for your time.
No problem. Thank you.
We've got 5 minutes over already. So, look, guys, if everyone likes what they've seen, please, like and share. If you've got any questions, feel free to ask. If you want to find out some more information, go to on the screen now, www.knowledgecube.co.uk. There's a bunch of information in there. You can get free sandbox license from there as well. Fill in the information, someone will be in touch. You can also see solutions that we've previously built, what can be built. It's there's loads in there. So yeah, look, guys, everyone, thanks for tuning in, and I hope everyone has a good weekend.